Hello dear contubernales, welcome to our 8 tips how to sling better video. Heads up, in it we focus only on the Balearic style throwing with rotation. This is a sling, the most ancient ranged weapon that, despite being hard to master, did not really fall out of use completely. Slings appeared in a few of the more modern conflicts as well. For example, Finns during the Winter War used slings to throw Molotov cocktails at Soviet tanks. When using a more humble projectile like a stone or a lead bullet, it is harder to deal significant damage. For it, you need accuracy. The ancients knew it. That is why, in most cultures, men were taught how to sling from boyhood. If you are not a time traveler, then at school you've probably learned how to read and write and not how to sling. What a pity. Luckily, you found this video. In it, we will share with you 8 tips that will help you improve your slinging accuracy, strength and rate of fire. But first, the basics. We've already made a tutorial video on how to sling. If you've never used a sling before, this is the best place to start. Go watch it now and I will wait. Oh, buckle ready. Good. Let us begin your training.
Tip number 1. Train. The master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried. I am sorry to say that this also applies to slinging. Why do you think the ancients began to sling at such a young age? If you truly want to sling well, you just have to do it a lot. Thankfully, sling is a pocket weapon, and ammunition for it can be found almost everywhere. You can always have a sling stashed in a jacket or a car, thanks to which you won't miss any opportunity for a quick slinging session. You went for a walk? Just find a stone and sling it. You are chilling at a beach? Are you really gonna pass the occasion to sling something as far into the water as possible?
Ale zajebiście.
You have a break at work? You know the drill. Just in this case, use safe ammunition. Tennis balls will do. We live in a lake district and thus found shores to be the coolest training places for beginners. They are first of all safe and allow you to see where and how far the projectile actually travels and where it lands, encouraging you to improve your aim and increase the shooting distance.
Tip number 2. Stay fit. And I mean seriously, do not only train with a sling.
For any kind of physical activity, it is good to be fit. And I mean, you don't need a six-pack, but the stronger you are, the more powerful your slinging is. If you're not going for strength but accuracy, then training other sports will also be beneficial, increasing your body awareness and eye-hand coordination.
Although seriously, who in his right mind would not want to sling powerfully and on target? For power, all you need is to learn a few simple calisthenics exercises. Please, seek inspiration in our Roman legionary training video. And if you already have the power, then keep watching for accuracy tips. In this tip, you need to follow your childhood dream, but with a sling.
Be honest, when you were a child and learned that stones can jump on water, you wanted your stone to make the most jumps possible, didn't you? Bring that memory back, but this time add a sling into the mix. But why stone skipping, you may ask? Well, if you learn how to skip stones with a sling, that means you are correctly folding your body for future accurate slinging. You see, when slinging, you need to be using your whole body. This way, a slinger generates power already in his legs, passes it through the hips to the arm and eventually a sling. Right before release, you also need to flatten the rotation. After all, for better accuracy, you want your projectile to fly at a relatively flat trajectory.
Tip number 4. Make yourself a target. Well, I know it's obvious, but when it comes to slinging, it is pointless for a beginner to spend money on materials for the target and finding a safe space for a shooting range.
Especially because when throwing with a sling at a fairly short distance, you can clearly see where a stone flies.
Here you want to apply the progressive overload formula that any athlete, including hobbyists, should know. If you don't know what progressive overload is, here is a quick explanation.
You can't walk into a gym for the first time and expect to do, let's say, 10 pull-ups. What you need are exercises that over time you will make harder by adding more weight, repetitions, or shortening breaks between sets. This is the only way to progress your training.
Incremental increase of the difficulty level.
The same principle applies to slinging, with the target being level over 9,000. What we recommend is to start by something simple and easy to make harder. Your first target can be a simple field road or a space between two trees if you happen to be walking in the forest. I personally find field roads to be a cooler beginner's target. First of all, there are usually abandoned stones in the fields. Gotta love that infinite ammo. Secondly, you can imagine an infantry unit approaching your position using the road, psychologically motivating your accuracy and making it more fun. On the other hand, with trees it is easier to apply progressive overload. Just start wide and tighten your gap with every successful throw.
Once you have reached a satisfying level, make yourself a proper target. Our suggestion is that you use dimensions provided by the people from the Balearic Islands, a home of the best ancient slingers.
These dimensions are also used for the targets at the Slinging World Cup, which takes place at Ibiza every year. Link to the dimensions in the comments.
In case of our target, we've made a centerpiece out of 5mm steel plate. It gives a very satisfying sound when hit. Again, programming your brain with a reward for every accurate throw. Moreover, with enough power, stones sometimes shatter to pieces when hitting such a thick steel plate, like in case of this one, making accurate throws even more satisfying. Tip number 5. Always look in direction of your target. Just like in golf. And no, I am not rich and thus got to play golf. However, for my studies, I've spent 3 years in Scotland, the only country on earth where golfing is cheap.
Oh, Scotland, land of the free, your beauty knows only the one who has seen thee. Okay, I need to come back down to earth. Just if you ever get a chance to visit Scotland, do not hesitate to go. Even the Romans did it. Fun fact, Scotland has the most remnants of Roman camps per square kilometers out of all the lands that Romans ever reached. Back to the tip. It is pretty straightforward. Throughout the whole slinging procedure, look at your target. It is the most tricky at the end. When releasing, the eyes instinctively want to follow the projectile, but this split of a second moment is quite vital. The longer your eyes focus on the target, the higher chance of hitting it. Resist the temptation of looking at a flying projectile. Once you learn to control it, your accuracy will most likely improve, and you won't need to be looking at a released projectile, because it will be going straight for the target, at which you have been staring the whole time.
Tip number 6. Train 1v1 matches. It is easier to hit a moving target.
Not from the technical standpoint, but if we were to factor in that your moving target would be a person, then it gets easier. Groups accumulate motivation by bringing in competitiveness and goals sharing. Training partner is also someone with whom you can celebrate all your achievements. That is why it is already cool if you get someone to shoot at the target together. Counting points will only make it more challenging, but also more enjoyable. However, the thing that will elevate your training to the very top are 1v1 matches. Sadly, it is not something that just anybody would wanna do for a few of their first training sessions. Fortunately, these days it is incredibly easy to get safe training ammunition. For real-life PvP matches, there is nothing better than tennis balls. Still too hard for you? No worries. There are also the so-called practice balls, that are up to 75% less hard than regular balls. Extra careful people can also wear safety goggles. Although matches with more than 2 players can be more fun, you will get the best progress in 1v1, as it will be easier to focus on your target.
Tip number 7. Use different slings. This means using slings of different length and slings made from different materials. The ancients from around the Mediterranean mostly used plant fiber and animal sinew to weave their slings out of, thus making flax and hemp the best materials for history reenactment freaks like us. We know that this position is extremely limiting, and that slings cover a greater historical spectrum than just antiquity and cultures surrounding the Roman Empire. That is why in our reenactment we also use wool slings from Tibet, that are still used there by the herdsmen. After all, Romans used wool for plenty of things. In our opinion, it would be silly to assume that no Roman ever used a wool sling. The chance for wool artifacts to survive time is also less likely. After all, wool rots and decomposes easier than plant fiber. Perhaps this is exactly why no wool slings from the time of the Romans survived. Or maybe it is just being ill-informed. Let us know in the comments if you know of any wool slings that were recovered from the time of classical antiquity. Anyways, you may also care very little for historical accuracy. In that case, you will be well off with a sling made from modern materials such as polyester. As not to look far, I made my first sling with simple string and the most durable piece of cloth that I could find in my house. No matter what your final purpose is to learn how to sling, using slings of different materials will improve your skill, as you will need to adapt to different comfort and elasticity that various materials give. Materials aside, it would probably be even more important to train with slings of different lengths. The principle here is easy. With a long sling, you will throw far. With a short sling, you will throw more accurately, but at a shorter distance. Tip number 8. Get a dog and teach it how to play fetch.
In all seriousness, do not get a dog if you can't afford to spend a decent amount of time with it. Dogs are after all living beings that feel emotions surprisingly similarly to humans. However, if time and money-wise you can afford a dog, or have a dog already, then you are in a great position. Dogs usually love to play with tennis balls. If you follow this guide, you will surely get some of them in no time. What's left to do is take a sling, go for a walk with your pet friend, and have fun together. Bonus advantage when your dog can really fetch. You will never have to collect the ammunition yourself. It will always come back to you carried in a cute little mouth. There is only one nuisance you will need to accept. The ball will quickly get wet and dirty from all the saliva and soil. There you have it. 8 easy tips that will make you a better slinger. Okay, maybe getting a dog is not that easy, but definitely one of the coolest ways to train. Anyways, as you can see, with a sling you don't have to limit yourself to a shooting range. A sling can be easily transported and prepped for use. The ammunition in form of stones is to be found almost everywhere. Moreover, it ranges from deadly lead projectiles to soft practice balls that can be safely used in matches against other slingers. All that is left is to get a sling. A homemade sling will be good for the start. I am sure you will figure out how to make one yourself. Do you think we could add something more to our list of tips? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching and remember, Roma caput mundi.